tell us about the house. First thing I noticed, obviously, when I drove up, was just the aesthetics, because on the picture I saw it was brown. Pulled up and it was green. So that's just a coat of paint, but I don't know if that was part of your renovations that you started.
No, we needed a coat of paint.
Yeah.
The brown was getting faded because it was 30 type years old. So we said paint. My wife likes green. It ties in with the forest. It ties in with the philosophy. So I said green. And she liked this color of green, so that's why it's there.
Perfect. So that was done. So on the outside then, you didn't do too much other than the new steel roof, the solar panels, and then you did your windows.
Yes, yes.
Which you can see from the outside.
Yeah. We've enlarged the glazing. We've probably put in about 50% more glazing. This
on all
is
sides or
on all four. Well, yeah, there's no windows on one side, but on the other sides, we punched out new windows. This is the Ottawa, the Jock River. We've got a last section of the rapids right here. The previous owners don't like nature, I guess. Didn't like nature. They didn't like the river. They tried to hide the river. We bought this house in winter. My wife wasn't aware there was a river here. We left the house because, again, she had noticed the thick window wells. I had noticed but I also was aware, I guess I had checked it out on Google Maps. So it's the Jock River race, kayak canoe race, starts about 200 meters downstream. In the years when my daughter and I would go in, we'd put the kayak in here, go down to the start line, hey, we're here, and just start off in the race. But I mean, it's
so you actually kayak down this river?
Yeah, in spring. Right now, it's largely gone, So, I mean, we're in the middle of the country. We've got 1,000 stupid birds flying around. We want to connect with nature. So to us, let's put in some more windows. But, glazing is a problem if you're putting in single pane glass. So therefore, I spent the extra money for triple pane, double low E, Krypton gas. As I say, the RSI rating on my windows is ahead of most people's walls.
Yeah.
So it's, does it pay for itself? I hope so. I don't have a large energy load here.
Yeah, and I feel like the windows is more of a comfort thing, right?
Yes,
so when you sit by the window, especially when you have those deep sills, you want to sit by the window.
They don't ice up in winter. So we don't get any of the frosting that you normally get on windows. But you're right. I mean, you're right.
You convection current, so it doesn't feel like a draft coming through.
Correct. Yeah. So it's comfort, vision, aesthetics. We're bringing the outside in. We moved to the country for a reason, and part of the reason is to see the country. So yeah, watching the deer walk across until she sees it.
Inside, but feel like I'm outside.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but here, let me walk you down on the field here. This is. I'll show you where the loop is. One loop is here. Most of it's on the far side of the tree because it's leaded clay. Trying to get leaded clay to go back in when I'm handling the backhoe. It's not as easy as I thought it was.
Guys make it look so easy.
Well, yeah, and you're supposed to. I suppose I should have put a little bit more time into it. But you can see 3 depressions here, and there are 5 on the other side. So was it perfectly done? No. You grow grass, not a big deal. I mean, we can see on occasion early spring before the grass fills in, and so I cut it so that you can't see that there's a little bit of a trough here. But there are 3 and 5 depressions. We're talking like that. Over the backyard, I can live with it. My wife has been told to live with it. It's just, but it's very deep and very effective. So, but you technically cannot tell that I've got loops here. And that's the issue, like the Canadian Museum, Civilization Museum, nobody knows it's there. And that's the beauty of ground source is air source. If you've got the compressor outside your bedroom window in a suburban neighborhood, all your neighbors know that you've got an air source because it's running at 2 o'clock in the morning. You'd never know.
Right.
I don't have a chimney. You have no way of knowing how. You'd assume I'm heating with electricity because I've got no chimney, no off-gassing, no nothing like that.
Do you cool off of this as well?
Yep. Geothermal does 100% heat, 100% cool, 100% water.
Do you need to worry about humidity?
No.
Getting rid of the humidity in the summer?
We run the geothermal sometimes simply to reduce again, partly to heat our water, but also to reduce the humidity. It's the cheapest, best dehumidifier going.
Oh, it does get rid of the humidity.
Oh, it pours it directly into the sump pump, and there's a lot of water. Yeah.
That's good, except for some reason I thought the geothermal did not get rid of humidity, and that was one of the cooling issues. So
mine does.
Yeah.
My understanding, I can take it from 84% RH down to 52% in about 2 hours. So,
that's great.
Excuse me. So, So yeah, I mean, we did because I'm into environment, we've got rain barrels all over the frigging place. We've got, most of our lights are light sensors. Most of the lights out here are 12 volt DC. Half of the lights inside are 12 volt DC. Simply, they run on a battery bank. I've got a Pony solar, because of course microfit, I don't touch. I can't touch.
Yeah.
You said you've got microfit too?
Well, we just sold our.
Oh, so
our
okay,
plastic
yeah.
house that had that.
And a lot of people think, oh, so I'm ready for the next power failure. No, you can't touch it. I mean, I'm paid 80 cents a kilowatt hour for a reason.
Yeah.
But if the grid goes down, I've got some backups. So what I do is literally I've got a timer downstairs and a battery bank, and during cheap time of use, overnight, I will charge the batteries that then run again, in summer it doesn't matter. We're almost asleep by the time it's dark. But in winter, it will run the lights from, during peak period.
Right.
So everything was designed to meld with the neighborhood, with the environment. Just anything that was environmentally sustainable is what we've tried to do here.
I'm kind of jealous of your backyard.
This is brand new. This was put up 3 days ago. We haven't even finished filling it up, and I'm reading the instructions on how do you do a pool. We've never had one, but we've got the grandkids a lot this summer.
Yeah.
So
I figured with the trampoline and everything.
yeah. And we've got a gazebo. Oh, you might as well walk out here, guys, just in case Brian wants to take a shot. Jesse, come. Yeah, so you can see there are brownish spots with the grass, and I know what I'm looking for, but you can see slight depression troughs. That's where the loops are.
Okay, yeah.
So here's our river. It's completely down. But in spring, that island, that's an island, is covered.
Oh, wow.
So we're down about 1.5 meters.
Yeah, we have a little stream behind the house we're living in now, and yeah, it's dropped substantially.
Oh, wow, yeah. By August, this should be dry. That's when I go around and pick up all the golf balls. There's a golf range just up on Franktown Road. So the balls double down here, and because this is sort of the end of the rapids, I've got 2 large garbage bags of balls, and I just put them here. I'm not a golfer. I whack them back into the river so they come back the next year. But I mean, to sit in the gazebo during the spring thaw,
yeah,
when you can actually hear the noise, it's lovely. Okay, so yes, metal roof, the solar panels on the flip side. The tower there that used to be our internet is now waiting for my 300 watt wind turbine. I've forgotten the name of it. But at any rate, it's a 300 watt turbine goes up there. My other 100 watt turbine basically doesn't work, so I'm going to abandon it. But this will also charge my batteries. I don't need it. I'm 20. Yeah. I mean, I've got a meter, I've got wire, I've got wind turbines and solar panels. I like to see how things work.
And that's the access to your attic?
Yes, that door up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we heard from the guy when he said, and we have no idea what happened. The guy forgot to insulate. So.
Is that a smoker over there? What do you have over
there? No, that's a compost.
What did you say?
Yeah. Again, we don't. Yeah. We have to pay, because the city says we have to pay for compost pickup. We prefer not to. We throw everything in there, it goes on the garden.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't go with electric vehicles. I heard you say that you did. We were looking at a Prius. We're out here. I can get downtown with 2 mandatory stop signs, and the rest are green lights. I can get downtown by 2 stop signs. So I'm not charging, I'm not regenerative braking on a Prius.
Right.
We're far enough out that I was worried about running out of electricity. They don't have an awful lot of EV chargers out here in Richmond.
Yeah, that's why I went with the Volt, because you still have the backup, right? So
yes, yeah.
Considered electric, but you have the generator.
Well, we've done some research, partly because Geo is an electric technology, so we're very cognizant, and I've been on IESO and stuff like that, but we've done the research that if all passenger cars in Ontario were to convert to Prius, Volt, Tesla, the average, so we went to EPA, what is the average kilowatt hour charge per kilometer driven? Mm-hmm. So we took however many passenger cars there are in Ontario, times 18,000 kilometers per year each, whatever the number was, divided by the average number of consumption units per car, and we then were able to do it worked out to the output from 4 nuclear reactors. So I'm aware, part of my fight with the city is you're offering free EV charging downtown at City Hall. This has got to be the most moronic thing going. Electricity has a value. People who buy EVs, with all due respect, technically should pay more because they are rich enough and they care enough. If you want to hit the market that is flexible, has some fluidity in their decision. But here's the city giving away EV charging. The people who are buying cars now are already sold. Like right, you do it because you care.
And usually you don't even charge in the city. You just charge at home.
Yeah. But if you charge during the day, you can crash the grid. So again, the number of megawatt hours, if all of you charge in at noon during peak periods, the grid can't accommodate you all.
Right.
You have to be forced to charge at night. You shouldn't be allowed to touch the grid from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
We adjust it so we can set the temp, at least in our car, you can set it on when you want to charge.
Okay, good,
so
good.
It won't charge because we don't want to pay to charge during peak hours either.
Yes,
right?
yes, okay.
We plug in at home and it just won't charge until it hits the next period.
Okay. You're ahead of most people, I'm guessing. Yeah. Most people plug it in.
Plug it in.
Yeah. That's not in the best interest of the Ontario grid. So it's just, have we thought through this unintended consequence? You're right, Brian, it is going to rain. He's my weatherman. We'll move back and take it inside. But I mean, there are a number of these unintended consequences, and if you all of a sudden run out of electricity, so yeah, let's put in solar panels. But because I was involved with the McGuinty thing, I got a call from Ontario Finance a couple of days, weeks after, because they knew me through renewables, and they said, so how much, if you put up those solar panels, how much electricity are you generating? This much. And how much of that is night? I said, not a single frigging kilowatt hour. Solar panels don't work at night. Now, she was a finance person. Yeah. But, I said, no, they're useless for like half the day. And in winter, my solar panels do not generate any electricity till 9 a.m. and they have gone by 5. So the 2 peak winter periods, my solar panels do nothing.
Right.
I'm not denigrating solar. I mean, solar works during summer peak, but winter, it's not the greatest technology. No. So this is why, again, another reason why I like ground source is this can run, this is totally dispatchable. I tell it when I want heat. It doesn't tell me. I've got no constrictions, as long as I've got the electricity coming in from the grid to run the compressors. Other than that, it's totally dispatchable.
Right.
And it's producing renewable energy. It's producing 27,000 kilowatt hour equivalents per year. On average, mine produces a lot more than that. But anyways, come on in. Yeah, so these were 2 windows. When we had the new ones put in, we said, duh, why don't we just simply wipe out the middle window? But that's what my wife noticed, the beautiful, and I missed that. I thought, wow, this is double wall construction. Yeah. So it's, it was just a different mindset that we looked. I mean, windows, that window didn't exist when we moved in here. So we blew that one out and put in windows. We originally, he had the same size window. They were all, whatever that dimension is, they were all the same windows throughout the entire house. We tried to keep it going. One of the window guys messed up, came in with the wrong size dimension. We said, okay, there goes consistency, and who cares? So that should have been a single pane, but we tried to reflect the shape, the style, and jerky window manufacturers. But as I say, yeah, this used to be a wall. We were going to put an electric fireplace there just for the fun of it. We said, let's put in a window instead. So that is 1 degree off due south. The roof is 40, oh gosh, if I knew our latitude, I could tell you it's 1 degree off whatever the latitude is for the roof. So it was one of these things when they came out with the solar panel rebate or incentive, I thought, due south at the exact angle.
No big trees right in front of your house?
No, that birch had to be chopped in the ice storm. They snapped. They weren't ready. Oh, and then you have to see the granite countertops. All right, come on in here, guys. So this, we needed, this used to be, I forget what room this used to be, but we decided, we played musical chairs with all of the rooms. That was the kitchen. This was the dining room. That was her study. So we, you know, literally we did this. We were dealing with a company that we went with another granite that was not as good, a little bit cheaper. They screwed us around a lot. We finally got to the point where we said, we want our granite. This one's absolutely beautiful. The density of this is unbelievable. But it also, when my daughter was here, we used to go for what we called river walks. So we'd go up and down the river, and there's a whole lot of seaweed, and looked at that and thought, shit, that's seaweed, you know that. Right. So it ties in perfectly with it. But
I've never seen the top of like this kind of grain.
Yeah, yeah, we love it. It's
veins, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. I can see why you committed the EcoSyn.
Also,
really unique.
Also, as I said, it got me to the point where, well, you've got your granite, sweetie. I get my energy now. But, and our other EcoSyn is because it was a house heated with propane. So we kept one of the tanks. We heat, like the stove is propane.
Yeah.
And we've got an emergency backup fireplace upstairs that we've never used, that under a power failure, we would run the propane fireplace in the large room upstairs. The HRV can switch to battery power because I know how many amp hours it runs on, and it would run on internal circulation so that the heat from that room would be circulated throughout the house.
Right.
So we're prepared for an ice storm. Right. Yeah, we lose the fridge and freezer.
Probably comes in.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's, you know, a lot of it is resiliency, redundancy, but again, as little footprint on the ground. The teak is FSC certified.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's mandatory. There's no way I could have non-FSC certified. Jesse, you can come too if you want. You're a little quick. Yes, sir. Get out of the way. All right, you know. So Brian has to be very judicious. The place is an absolute pigsty mess, but, you know, ignore that. So here's the geothermal. I mean, it's a standard geothermal. Oversized. The electric plenum is somewhere up in there. It's never used on. We just had the vents cleaned out a little while ago.
So when you say oversized, that's the loop outside?
The loop is oversized and the box is oversized.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does the box do?
From the pipes out in the field, one of them comes in, it is the supply. So it comes in, without getting overly technical, there's a thing called Reynolds number and laminar flow. As it goes along, there is an element of heat next to the pipe. The water is able to suck it into across the ABS into the water. It comes into the house. So it's doing this constantly, you know, pulling all the heat away from the loop. It comes in here, goes through the compressor, all of these random little pieces of heat, and thrown out through the vents.
Right.
The water, therefore, is cooler, so it goes back out, and the whole idea of thermodynamics is heat is attracted to cool. So as the cool water goes out, it's all the heat elements.
And then comes back in.
Comes back in. And it just keeps looping. Yeah. So one of them is outgoing, one of them is incoming. You know, this is the preheat, so it heats the water in here that then feeds into the main tank. So this one is new, but the geothermal does the heating of the water. So all you have...
Reason for the flag?
I worked at the British government. That's a Welsh flag. They had a spare one, and I thought, it looks nice. Nothing to do with Wells. No, it's the tank is ugly looking. Look at that. That's really ugly.
So, sorry, that's preheating. So what is that preheating?
The main water tank. So
okay.
Anything that's not, in winter, anything that's not used for heating of the house goes into there, that then goes into there. And in summer, the cooling, there's a lot more heat, so I can heat the water faster in summer because all of the heat is going into the water as opposed to into the space heating. So the filter is in here. The biggest problem with the geothermal is people don't clean their filters. You're supposed to clean them, well, they say every month. You know, I probably get away with every second year. I have a service call every 4 years, and the guy comes and says, holy shit, you know, there's no problem because I know what I'm doing.
Right.
The average person doesn't know. Filters are the biggest problem. They get dirty. They stop the airflow going through. You just lose the heat. Right. You've got the dehumidifier, so that in winter adds water to the system. The dehumidifier vents directly into my sump pump.
Okay.
It's literally,
So that's the humidifier?
that's the
there,
humidifier, yeah.
Dehumidifier
Somewhere
is
in there.
built in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Somewhere in there with all the circuitry. So I control the levels. I've got the controls upstairs for my HRV, blah, 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 which is over there. But again, the HRV's got nothing to do with the geothermal. But
so this system, you did the loop, but you had somebody else come in to do the install.
yeah, I'm not that stupid.
So for those, like for the homeowners who are interested in this, what are some tips that they should be looking for? That, you know, most of them don't have the expertise or the knowledge to do a lot of the work themselves, or likely the time, right, to do it. So what are some tips? You know, how would they go about? Who should they be looking for? We talked a little bit about the questions, but kind of where would they start at this point if they were interested in going this route?
Your best bang for buck is insulating your house. So get proper windows, proper insulation, you know, get your demand down as low as possible. Now, you're in the market for geothermal. As you've said, air source is technically, I mean, I would prefer to put air source in Vancouver or Toronto where it's a lot, or the Maritimes. When you're into an extreme climate like here, I'm not a big fan of air source. I know they've improved. Ground source is more dependable, reliable, you know, dispatchable, blah, blah, blah. They need to look for brand. Each brand is slightly different. You can get what is called a demand superheater, which means I can flip a switch in summer, which I don't have. I could flip a switch, run the geothermal. It would heat my water tank first before cooling my house. So if you've got 10 teenage daughters, go for that, right, because you need hot water.
And your bill has dropped since your daughter moved in.
Both the water pumping and the heating of the water, yeah. I mean, with my wife and I, it's just not that much. So there are a couple of thingies that you might want. You know, other than that, they are all rated by CSA according to coefficient of performance heating, coefficient of performance cooling. Go for the best unit possible. You will pay more for the more efficient unit. Yeah. Get a brand that is recognized. There are a couple of, you know, there are 2 or 3 guys that come up every week, you know, that new brand. You know,
stick with the ones that can be serviced by the guy.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. And as we found out with the Ontario program, so you installed my system, which is undersized. The day after the program ended, you've buggered off. I can't find you. I can't get the other dealer to come in because as soon as he touches that box, he's responsible. And he has no idea how bad you were. So that was a major problem we had after the Ontario Hydro rebate is HVAC guys do that. I mean, they're not going to touch your disaster because they're in charge then. So there's a bit of, I'll just stay away from this person. So these people were left high and dry. You know, they can't get it fixed. Buy a good brand. The dealer, that's, again, do your research. You know, we give you some questions to ask. Most of it is you better know somebody who's got a geothermal because if not, if you want the 20-degree rise in a minute and a half in the morning, don't touch our technology. It won't do it. So hopefully you've got a friend who can say, oh yeah, you know, this is good, this is bad. And, you know, Casey.
Watching this video?
Yeah. Casey's a good dealer. You know, he installed it every time I phoned him. It only takes him 3 weeks to get out here, you know, which is really good. Or he ignores me completely. You know, that whole, it's a relationship with your dealer that you have to trust that your dealer is going to have your back or whatever the expression is. There's not an acid checklist that I can give you that says, oh, if he gets all 10 check boxes, go with him. Part of it is your gut feel. I mean, what do you want? Again,
don't go for the cheapest price.
Don't go for the cheapest price. Don't necessarily go for the largest price. That was part of the problem with the Green On grant. I personally have opposed grants ever since I took over after the grant. My issue with my board, they didn't accept it. I said, why don't we go to Ontario Hydro and Province of Ontario / Ontario Hydro so that everybody would then do a dual meter that instead of paying either 9 to 18 cents, you pay 4 cents a kilowatt hour for all the electricity you use there. It takes care of all of our public relations disasters. It's a production tax credit. The more you use, the more you pay. But a $20,000 rebate, prior to Green On, when it was coming in, a couple of friends would phone up. So what should I do? I said, get a quote now. Because the quote will be that. If after the Green On $20,000 rebate comes in, it has budged, don't touch that dude. Because he's part of the problem with the Ontario Hydro $2,000 rebate. Once it was gone, I did the analysis. The average cost increment was $1,500. So the homeowner got a $2,000 rebate, on a $1,500 more expensive. Explain to me why it's more $1,500 more expensive. So my dealers made money, and that's very important. I don't want to denigrate that, but there wasn't flow-through sustainability.
Right.
As in, if it was $10,000 before and it's now $1,150, you know, for a $2,000 rebate, who's benefiting? My dealers benefited, don't get me wrong. The homeowner who bought it benefited. My dealers made perhaps a little bit more. Plus, hydro at that point was losing $2,000 on all of these people. And if the system doesn't work, and if the system kicked in during peak TOU, they didn't have TOU in those days, who's benefiting here? Mm-hmm. Whereas now, I'm arguing homes, residential systems should only be installed if you can somehow make sure that it does not turn on between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
Yeah.
My members are pushing back on that dramatically. But who are we trying to kiss butt of here? Utility, homeowner? I mean, by going...
The thing is, we all have different goals.
Right? Yes, so yeah. And it would never work in commercial because almost 100% of your demand is from 9 to 5. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, commercial's a different case. But then you get into ice storage so that, you know, there are all sorts of games you can play with this technology. That you produce ice at night in the same way I'm putting cold air in here. But, you know, you produce ice at night so that during peak period, you've got ice that has a higher coefficient of performance for circulating the load. Energy modeling. If you actually spend more than 2 minutes thinking this through, you can save all the way through.
So I love the fact that it's first the envelope. So just to reiterate to people watching and listening to this, envelope's number one. So that's going to be insulation, air sealing, windows and doors.
Yes.
And then, because if people have been following us for a while, I talk about it all the time. Start with your envelope, and then only after you've done that, then can your house be modeled properly and the system can be sized accordingly.
Yeah.
So I love that you started with that, even though we were talking about geothermal. So.
Well, the more you save on demand, the less you have to pay for supply. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people buy energy efficient cars. They're more expensive, but they consume less gas.
People always go for the new furnace, and then they go and change their windows, and then run into all sorts of other issues.
Yeah, and if that...
We don't need to get into that now.
Yeah. Good. But
okay, and then that's HRV?
It's a standard HRV, which you have to have on highly insulated houses. So I can run it internally. I can run it, you know, to increase or only decrease my humidity level. I mean, it's basically an HRV.
Yeah.
Nothing exceptional to it. Did you get the dog? I should show you this one last thing over here. I was dealing with a buddy. He has just finished building his new house out in Almont, and he was going to go off grid. So I was giving him all of my kilowatt type stuff. So here's my battery bank, which comes in from the pony panel I've got there. This occasionally will kick on at night. I'm testing some other batteries that then feeds in to run a lot of the lights around here. But as I say, there's my EGH rating of 90. So I'm literally one of the top 20 houses in the country in terms of energy efficiency. The interesting thing with this house is it's 400 amp service. I was the first microfit. ESA came in, said, you can't have a permit. Why? Because you've got 400 amps. The previous owner, the guy who built this place, was a carpenter. So he had all, the garage was basically, you know, high machines. All I can do is a grow op as of October 17th. So I mean, that box I'm not allowed to go into. It's totally sealed. The hydro guys come here for tours. They love to see this because I guess 400 amp services aren't that common. They came in here, said, and of course I had all of this, the panels up, blah, blah, blah. We can't give you a permit. We don't have a procedure for 400 amp. I said, 400 is 200 and better. You know, so if I were 50 amp, I could see there being a problem. You can't get it. But so I had my dealer basically scribble out something for ESA saying 400, and he used a lot of technical terms. So I got it, but they were going to block me because my amperage was 400. It was just, no, guys, you're electrical experts and you don't understand that feeding in, having a higher amp rating is better. But it does look a little bit like a DC-7. It's just, it's taken me all the time we've been here to isolate all of the circuits, you know, so that I can now flip a breaker, and half of them are still non-functioning. It's just, it drives me crazy. Used to have an actual inverter. The lady here before us had an inverter. It got fried. So now that's why I use my Pony panels and the car battery charger simply to charge those batteries at night. But so a lot of this wire is not supposed to be here. All right, let's go upstairs then.
Keeps busy.
Hey. So yeah, I think that's everything down here. Yeah. Circulating fan is not working right now, so that's our backup fireplace. Yeah, I mean, we use it sometimes in winter, but it actually overpowers the room. So again, a bunch more windows that we busted in here. So we get fairly good flow through, but this is a large room. And then the rest of the house.
Was that an addition put on, or was that always part of the?
Yeah, that's all, yeah.
So we just had that window for light?
Yeah.
At the interior?
Yeah. Yeah, we put that window in when we moved here. And a lot, as I say, the west window, it's the only west window we've got in the entire house. We wanted to add that. We were going to add a balcony and didn't. So we have, you know, bathroom we increased. As you're punching in a new window, you might as well, especially once we lost the symmetry of all of the design, once that was out the window, then we might as well just keep adding.
Yeah.
So look at this. They didn't, when they punched the windows in, and I'm staring over their shoulders, so I'm one of the homeowners that you absolutely despise because I'm there saying, what, you're doing this?